Okay, so my Watch 6 Classic is finally here. We're going to open it and have a quick look and first impressions compared to my Watch 5 Pro. So the story is really, I ordered my watch. I was going on a 2-week holiday, so I ordered this to be delivered on the 4th of August, and on the 3rd Samsung sent me an email to say they had unexpected delays. So I went on my holiday and now I've just come back and ordered one. I also had ordered the new Fold and it suffered the same fate. They had unexpected delays and I had to cancel the order. And thinking about it, I thought, you know, I've got a Fold 4. I probably don't need the Fold 5 at the moment. I didn't see much reason to upgrade, although it's a really good device. Okay, so let's get into this then. There we are. Neatly wrapped in this black wrapper, and obviously some stuff with it, paperwork, put that to one side. And then here it is. So I normally go for the big size. So I went for the 47mm LTE. So we're gonna get into that one as well and just open up. So again, it should be, I'm hoping that you can just break the seal by pulling this. Ah, that's nice. Don't think we've seen this before. So similarly on the other side, there's a flap there. You just go like that, and again, done. So let's get straight in. Here we are. So this is the watch, Samsung Galaxy Watch 6 Classic, and right next side by side with the Watch 5 Pro. See, immediately you can see that the Watch 5 Classic, Watch 6 Classic, the newer one, because it's 47mm in terms of display, it's much bigger. And this is a 45mm screen. Now looking on the sides, we can see that the position of the buttons is similar, and let me see if I can get closer. You can see that the buttons, the position of the buttons is similar, but we do have a design change around here. And also if you look here, probably a mic, we can see that it's under there on the newer watch. So there's a slight change there in the design. Now going around to the other side, there we go, and we'll put them side by side this way as well. And I think those may be speakers that we're looking at here under the devices. Now if we go right under, what I expect to see, so on the let's open this up. On the older watch on the left, we can see that it's got this rounded, I did a video before comparing this to previous versions. It's much more rounded here, so that when you're wearing it, it actually leaves a smaller round thing here on your wrist, because it's got a protruding section right here. It's not flat as previous generations were, but you can see that they've continued that on the new watch. You can also see, I think this was the temperature sensor. It's a bit filthy because I wear this pretty much, I only take it off when I'm charging or having a bath, otherwise it's on my wrist. And I think we still got that here. I'm gonna assume that's a temperature sensor as well. The other difference that you will see here, apart from the we'll talk about the bezel, apart from the screen size and the fact that I've pointed out the bit here, the design change, you can also see that in the past, all the watches we've had this kind of design in terms of the strap, where you pull this down and you can pull the strap off. This time you only have to press down and it comes off, and same if you want to put it on, press down, put it in, and then let go. So much easier and much neater that way. But the other thing I wanted to do is to make sure that I can show you the thickness if I can. So let's put them side by side this way. So those that are worried that there's going to be some type of very significant issue because of the bezel, it's not that significant. In fact, you can't tell at first glance which is thicker. And in terms of weight, I'll show you this. Let me show you these stats before we get into the main video. So we are on GSM Arena here, and it's the two watches. So on the left is the newer watch, the Classic, and then on the right is the older Watch 5 Pro. So let's get down and I'll show you here. So weight 59 grams on the newer watch, 46 on the older. So the newer watch is a bit hefty. You don't feel it. It's over 10 grams of weight difference, but you don't feel it. Now if we look at the display, which I was talking about before, they actually both have Super AMOLED, but it's sapphire crystal. The one complaint that people had with the Watch 5 Pro is that it performed poorly in well lit conditions. So if you're outside, you're running or you're jogging or exercising or just walking about in direct sunlight, it performed poorly. What Samsung have done is they've doubled the number of nits. So it was 1,000 on the newer watch, it's 2,000, so it's double. So you won't have issues in direct sunlight with the Watch 6 Classic. Now the only other things here to mention on the you can see them. I'll do this so you can see them at your own leisure. As we talked about, the display size is actually bigger on the newer watch, 1.5 inches compared to 1.4. The other thing to just talk about is the processor. So we know we got a new processor on the new watch, W930 instead of the W920, and also comes with bigger RAM on the new watch, which is 2 gig and 1.5 on the old one. The newer watch is 13 or so grams heavier. So what you could do is just make sure that the strap that you use is a lighter one. So they do some lighter versions of this that you could use so that it doesn't feel as bulky. In fact, on the Watch 5 Pro, because I use this debuckle original Samsung strap, it's very heavy actually. It makes the watch feel a bit bulky. But when you've got something leathery or some of the skinny ones that Samsung has recently made, you can actually make your watch look a bit more streamlined. Classic version has always been the fashionable. If you remember what the Frontier looked like, it was all bulky and all kind of designed for the outdoors and things like that. But the Classic has always been, you know, the one that you want to wear with your suit, the one that you can take outdoors as well and do that. It kind of fits all kind of aspects that you can throw at somebody, but still look fashionable or still look like an element of fashion. So I quite like the look. Now I'll talk about the main thing that people have been concerned about, which is now returned, and I'm hoping you can hear that. So the bezel is back, and I have to tell you that I specifically myself missed it. So this is not to say this doesn't have a bezel. In fact, it does, and you know it's digital, and you just have to go like this. Now it's not a complaint, but first of all, they could have used the screen real estate much better to make a bigger screen, maybe a 47mm, and then put a thin bezel around it, even if it was a digital one. The fact that it dips as well, I know it's to make sure that your finger is having a kind of tracked path. That's fine, and I also know that they do it because they want to protect the display, because this is an outdoor watch. That's all fine, but it then looks like a can or a tin can when you look at it as a watch. I know Apple have done the same thing. I prefer a watch that the screen just goes all around the edges until you get to the to the rotating bezel like this. And if you're going to make a digital bezel, I expect it to be facing this way rather than down. So I expect it to take the same shape as the newer watch, so that if this was digital, I still expect to be able to do that. But this real estate here, this space, should be used for the display, because it does look a bit funny this way. It's not, as I say, it's not a complaint. I've had this watch. I have no complaints whatsoever. In fact, it's reliable. I did a lot of testing with previous watches, and you can see that all the kind of stuff you expect to work as expected. The health stuff and all of that, the metrics and the body measurements and all of that, all work perfectly. I don't have any complaints there at all. In fact, that was a good job from Samsung. But it's just to say I didn't quite 100% go with the design on the Watch 5 Pro, but it's a you know, it's a personal thing that and it's subjective. Some will really like this. Now the last thing to talk about on the first impressions is the battery. Now we know, and I think I showed you the specs, that this Watch 5 Pro, the previous version, has got a bigger battery compared to the Watch 6 Classic. What that means is that I was able to get something like 3 days and 8 hours consistently on here. That's around 80 hours. Whereas on the newer watch, I expect to lose a day. So I would expect to get 2 days and 8 hours. That's still not bad for me. I don't, you know, anything over 2 days I would say is reasonable in the current market. So I think 2 days, and it also depends on how much activity you do. There'll be somebody who has this who can go 4-5 days, but if you at least take an activity a day, or maybe an activity every couple of days, that's what eats into the battery. And of course things like always on display, location, and if you're using LTE only, which means you've turned off Wi-Fi and Bluetooth and you're just using LTE, that consumes a lot of battery as well. So the settings will vary, but for me, I often leave location on, I leave Bluetooth, NFC and all of that on. I don't always have always on display, although it's on now, I don't always have it on. So that's how much battery life I've been getting. And I have an activity at least once a day, an hour once a day. So that also consumes quite a bit of battery. And if you don't do any of that, you're just there to use your smartwatch as a watch really, and maybe to pick up a couple of calls and texts, it will last much longer than that as well. So battery life on this cannot be beat. So the question is, should you upgrade? My immediate answer would be no, if you have this, because it's got all you need. Particularly the battery life on this is just great. The increase in RAM is not notable. So, you know, from 1.5 to 2, that's fine. We know we got a new chipset here. So making on the new watch, which makes things faster, but again, you're not going to see the difference if you're just an average user. So in terms of really upgrading, there's just some minor things that are on here. The main feature that people will go for, and the reason why I've got mine, is I prefer this bezel compared to the digital one. So that's the reason why I went for this. Well, another thing I like is that measurement of things like atrial fibrillation is now automatic. You know, you had to kind of sit there and touch something and make it work that way. But I like the fact that it's now automatic and just happens in the background on the newer watch. I don't see why a software update couldn't bring it here. I think the hardware is the same. So I think it's a software issue, but I remain open to be corrected there. So that was it. This was just a first impressions to just show you guys what the differences are, and some of the choice, the thoughts you might want to have if you're getting a new one. But yeah, I prefer the bigger screen and I prefer the bezel. Those are the two things why I've upgraded. If it wasn't for this bezel, I wouldn't be upgrading just for the display. I would have probably stuck with my Watch 5 Pro. So there it is. Let me know what you think in the comments. Have a great day.